that. The last person on the call mentioned pesticides. One of the things that the EPA has done over the last few years is to permit a new fumigant called sulfuryl fluoride, and that will be going on processed foods and warehouses, food storage places. That's going to jack up the levels of fluoride incredibly on about 600 foodstuffs. They're allowing 130 parts per million in wheat flour. Well, wheat flour goes into pizza, goes into pancakes, it goes into cakes, and so on. So, again, this is incredible, but true. We're getting more and more fluoride. It seems to be no one steering this ship at all.
It's really scary.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. That's all.
You got it.
Thank you.
Let's go to Roy in Utah, first-time caller. Go ahead, Roy.
Thank you, George.
Sure thing.
I'd like to talk about the relationship of fluoride exposure, the effect on the pineal gland. There's a Dr. Jennifer Luke that did a study a few years ago, and she proved, A, that fluoride is concentrated in the pineal gland, and B, it leads to a reduction in the amount of melatonin. And one of the points you tried to prove is this contributes to early puberty because melatonin does affect the timing of puberty. Yeah. And it did prove true in the animals that she studied. But also, we know it affects sleep. Millions of people take it to help them sleep, and maybe that's one of the reasons why we have so many people that don't sleep well. And the other thing, of course, as you get into yoga, the pineal gland, the third eye is often called, is the sixth chakra, and it's sort of the conduit to a higher consciousness, light, inspiration, whatever you want to call it. So to me, that is a very significant effect of fluoride.
Absolutely. You're right on target there. I know Jennifer Luke very well. I've met her many, many times. I even brought her PhD thesis over to the United States. We made copies. We made sure it got into the hands of various regulatory agencies like the EPA. But nobody in these fluoridated countries have bothered to repeat her experiment. But you're right. She found that fluoride concentrates in the pineal gland in humans. She analyzed the pineal gland from several corpses, and she also did the animal studies. You're absolutely right. She found a lowered melatonin production in the animals earlier onset of puberty. And when she searched the literature to see if anybody else had talked about puberty and fluoride, she found that the first study done, one of the second trial, actually, 1945 to 1955, Kingston, Newburgh, the young girls in the fluoridated Newburgh were menstruating approximately 5 months earlier on average than the young girls in unfluoridated Kingston. That was an observation made in 1955, and they didn't think it was significant at the time. But the shocker is that no country that's fluoridating its water is taking any notice of this, even when we take the whole thesis and shove it under their noses. The concentration of the human pineal gland has been published, in fact, in Carey's research. So no dentist can say they don't know about this because it was in one of their leading journals, Carey's research.
Well, I can tell you, Paul, that if the fluoride and fluoridation caused problems to the penis gland, it would certainly be in a lot more publications than the pineal gland, which is in the middle of the brain.
Well, it's funny you should say that because some people, Descartes referred to the pineal gland as the seat of the soul, the seat of the soul, but someone else referred it to the penis of the brain.
Yeah.
Let's go to Marie, wildcard line. You're up with us. Hi, Marie.
Hi, sir. Thank you for taking my call.
Sure.
I was told to explain my question because they said that otherwise it wouldn't be very clear. But when you give animals the tap water, is there a chance that that could cause the animal to have baldness and that? Because I've got a cat and a dog, and they get tap water, and cats and dogs, they drink a lot of water, and they are going bald.
No, I don't think that's likely because I think we'd be hearing much more about that. I mean, there's so many millions of cat owners with fluoridated water coming into their houses. This would be a huge common complaint. I think the issue was surfaced with the farm animals, which drink a huge amount of water. What I do think is a huge problem is with dogs, particularly larger dogs. The first thing that goes with the large dogs is their back legs. And so I think they're accumulating a lot of fluoride in their bones in dogs, not only from the water, but from the bone meal. The dog biscuits, I think, contain a lot of fluoride in them. And so I think that's where the problem is. And also there is one of the animals which is susceptible to osteosarcoma is the dog. The dog is susceptible to osteosarcoma, which is a rare bone cancer, and that's certainly one of the controversial issues with fluoride as to whether or not it increases the rate of osteosarcoma in young men. There's mixed studies on that, but the latest study was the best study conducted at Harvard University by Bassin, and she showed that young boys drinking fluoridated water in their 6th, 7th, and 8th years have a 5 to 7-fold increased risk of succumbing to osteosarcoma by the age of 20. Now, this is a rare cancer, but only affecting a few hundred kids each year in the United States, but it's usually fatal. So we have the possibility here that fluoridated water is actually killing a few people. And how many teeth would you have to save to justify one child dying from osteosarcoma?
Are there any legislators out there trying to push for the abandoning of this?
Yes, at state level there are, but I don't know of any major ones in the federal level.
Dennis Kucinich has been very interested in this issue. Also, I have hopes for there've been one or two outstanding congressmen who've gone to the wall with mercury, not only with mercury fillings like Diane Watson from California, and I'm trying to think of the congressman from, is it Indiana?
Feinstein?
On mercury. No. He was very outspoken on the thimerosal issue in vaccines. So I think we have potential, but the trouble is, if you talk about Washington, the ADA has got lobbyists crawling all over that place. And until we get a larger number of people concerned in the general public to put a counter pressure, the money and the white coat influence from the ADA on Congress is very, very huge. I think we have 17,000 people now who've called for congressional hearings, but it's very, very tough. A quicker route, if anybody wants to help here, get an email to President-elect Obama and say, you said that you want to see integrity back in government. You want good science back in government. Well, a jolly good place to start is to stop fluoridation. Or at least he can't, I think, as a president, stop fluoridation. But he could give the green light to have public hearings, to put these people at the CDC under oath, to get people from the FDA under oath and the EPA under oath explaining their various different and abominable roles in the promotion of fluoridation.
We'll be back with more final calls on Coast to Coast AM. Hey, join me for a special meet and greet aboard the haunted Queen Mary, Long Beach, California. It'll be Sunday afternoon, January 25th from 1 to 3. For information, go to the coasttocoastam.com website, click on the calendar section there, right there in the middle of the homepage, and then click on Ghost Fest 3. Paul, with 1 to 10 being the scale and 10 being the worst poison possible, where would you put fluoride?
Oh, it's right up there for inorganic substances, as opposed to organic things. It's right up there. It's one of the most toxic. It's more toxic than lead as far as the lethal substance. We're not talking, actually, with fluoridation, we're not talking about killing people outright, so it's misleading to talk about the lethal doses. But certainly the lethal dose of fluoride is smaller than the lethal dose for lead.
It's very similar to strychnine, cyanide, arsenic. Less than a drop of fluoride will kill a child, and Anywhere from 5 to 10 drops will kill an adult. But Paul's right. It's diluted a tremendous amount in water, only 1 part per million. But the law does not talk about concentration. The law